Now let's talk about China and the European Union. They could be headed towards a full-blown trade war. Brussels is moving ahead with its plan to block imports of Chinese EVs, and Beijing is responding in kind. Let's bring you the latest. This week, the European Union started imposing tariffs on Chinese EVs. It is targeting all major car brands, from Chinese companies like BYD, Geely and SAIC, to Western car makers like Volvo, Volkswagen, BMW and Tesla. If any one of these companies imports cars from China, they will be subjected to tariffs. Tariffs that range from 17.4 to 37.6%. Earlier, these car makers had to pay a 10% import tax. Now, these new tariffs are over and above the 10%. So why is the EU imposing such high taxes? Well, Brussels says they're necessary. It says Chinese government extends unfair subsidies to EV makers, and the result is this: Chinese cars, or cars made in China, are cheaper than those made by Western companies. So now Europe is imposing tariffs on Chinese-made cars to undo their unfair advantage and restore some balance for European players.
The introduction of tariffs is not an objective per se. It is a means to correct an imbalance, an unfair competitive situation to the detriment of producers of electric vehicles in the EU compared to those who are producing vehicles in China.
Last month, Brussels and Beijing began discussions. The goal was to find middle ground to avoid a full-blown trade war. But there is no deal yet. Both sides say they're still talking. Clearly, they're not making progress because China is now taking retaliatory measures. It is going after European Brandy. Now, China is a major buyer of this product, and it has now launched an anti-dumping investigation against brandy imports from Europe. China's Commerce Ministry is leading this probe. It says Europeans are selling brandy below market rates. A few weeks ago, Beijing ordered a similar investigation against European pork, and there's speculation that European cars could be next. Reports say China could target luxury or ultra-luxury cars from brands like Porsche and BMW. They could face a 25% tax.
China is definitely going to retaliate in some form or a way. We've already seen, although it wasn't explicit, we've already seen, brandy, pork, and the unofficial talks of the 25% tariff on 2.5 liter and above vehicles imported from Europe, right?
This is slowly turning into a trade war. Europeans are going after Chinese EVs. In return, China is targeting European brandy and pork and possibly European cars next. And that's making the car makers nervous. Take Volkswagen, for instance. It is Europe's biggest car maker. The brand has a sizable presence in China too, and it is vocally expressing its anger against Brussels. It is against the European Union's tariffs. The company has in fact issued a statement. Let me quote from what they've said. The timing of the EU Commission's decision is detrimental to the current weak demand for battery electric vehicles in Germany and Europe. Companies like Volkswagen feel that these tariffs would hurt Europe in the long run.
Will redirect its going global efforts to Southeast Asia, to Latin America, to Middle East, to Africa, to places in the world that will welcome the Chinese brands because they're affordable. Basically, you're giving China the open invitation to go everywhere else and avoid the markets where the protections exist.
The EU wants more cars to be built at home. That's the goal of any tariff, to promote local manufacturing. But that's not happening here because Chinese companies are looking at other options. For instance, BYD. They've opened up a new EV factory in Thailand, BYD. And how does it help them? By producing in a third country, Chinese companies hope to bypass European sanctions. So instead of sending their cars from Chinese factories directly, they plan to build the cars in third countries like in Thailand and then ship them to Europe from there. Brussels, after all, cannot keep slapping tariffs on everyone. So it needs a better plan to tackle Chinese oversupply.
Across continents, one powerful news source.
Bringing you diverse perspectives on the issues that matter. We go beyond the boundaries to give you that little extra about every sporting moment.
So thank you for making Firstpost 5 million strong. We're counting on your support, and you can trust us to bring you the news unfiltered and unvarnished. On the show today, the T20 World Cup Vantage will be crossed to the West Indies. What can you expect from this?
Hello, I'm Alison Green, coming to you from Durban, South Africa. Today we have a special show.
Start with a report on India's shifting nuclear posture. The first time since India officially became a nuclear power.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Aaron Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C.